It is the most famous animal that ever lived. 70 million years ago, a single species stood apart from every other predator on Earth, not merely as a hunter, but as something closer to a force of nature. Tyrannosaurus rex. 12 meters of bone and muscle, moving on legs as thick as old-growth timber, carrying a skull that could swallow a human being whole. Popular culture has spent decades imagining worthy opponents for this animal. Movies pit it against Spinosaurus. Documentaries hint at prehistoric showdowns with Giganotosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus. The premise is irresistible, one giant predator against another, locked in combat for the title of greatest predator in history. But every one of those matchups is fiction, and not merely creative license. These animals never shared a continent. They never shared an era. Spinosaurus stalked the river deltas of North Africa over 30 million years before Tyrannosaurus evolved. Giganotosaurus hunted the floodplains of South America in a world T-Rex would never see. There is no fossil record connecting them. No possible encounter. The battles exist only in imagination. And even if, somehow, they had met, Tyrannosaurus was no easy opponent. Its bite force was the most powerful of any terrestrial animal ever measured, sufficient to shear through bone as if it were cartilage. Its skull was not the fragile, blade-like construction of most large theropods. It was a reinforced weapon, built to absorb and deliver impact. A healthy adult would have been a genuinely terrifying adversary. But here is the question that paleontology actually asks: were there animals capable of killing a Tyrannosaurus rex? The answer, supported by fossil evidence, may surprise you. They weren't rival predators from distant continents. They weren't larger, faster, or more ferocious. They were the animals Tyrannosaurus hunted every single day, grazing in the same forests, drinking from the same rivers, walking the same late Cretaceous ground. The most dangerous animals in Tyrannosaurus rex's world may have been its prey. Triceratops horridus. At roughly 9 meters long and potentially over 8 tons, it was one of the largest land animals sharing the Hell Creek ecosystem with Tyrannosaurus. And it was anything but defenseless. The skull of Triceratops is one of the most extraordinary structures in vertebrate evolution, accounting for roughly a third of the animal's total body length. Behind that skull sat a muscular neck and shoulders built to support and drive it forward with enormous force. The two long brow horns, each potentially over a meter in length, were not merely display structures. Fossil specimens have been recovered showing healed puncture wounds consistent with horn impacts, and critically, some of those wounds match the dimensions of Triceratops' horns. Scientists believe these animals did engage in direct physical confrontations with predators, and the evidence suggests they sometimes survived them. A Tyrannosaurus approaching an adult Triceratops would have been reading every signal with precision: the angle of the frill, the position of the feet, the direction of the animal's gaze. Large predators the world over assess risk before committing to an attack. The cost of injury is too high. Because a Triceratops that chose to charge rather than flee would have been devastating. Estimates suggest a charging adult could have driven its horns into a predator with the force of a small vehicle. A punctured lung. A shattered leg bone. Injuries that, in a world without medicine, would have meant a slow death by starvation. Healed bite marks from Tyrannosaurus have been found on Triceratops' bone. But healed injuries cut both ways. The predator that left those marks survived. So, apparently, did the prey. Ankylosaurus magniventris. Roughly 8 meters long, potentially over 6 tons, and built unlike any other animal in its ecosystem. Where most large herbivores relied on speed or aggression for defense, Ankylosaurus had taken a different evolutionary path entirely. Its back was covered in osteoderms, thick, bony plates fused into a mosaic of natural armor, embedded directly into the skin. Across the flanks, along the neck, over the skull, impact after impact would have been absorbed or deflected. Even the eyelids of some ankylosaurs were reinforced with bone. And then there was the tail. At the end of Ankylosaurus's tail sat a mass of fused bone, a club, potentially weighing over 30 kilograms. Biomechanical studies of ankylosaur tail musculature suggest this weapon could be swung with considerable velocity. The physics are unforgiving. A direct strike from that club, delivered to the lower leg of a Tyrannosaurus, could have fractured bone. A Tyrannosaurus with a broken leg did not recover. It starved. The low center of gravity that made Ankylosaurus appear slow was, in another sense, a defensive masterpiece. Flipping one was not a practical option for a predator, however powerful. An attack from the side risked putting the predator within range of that tail. An attack from behind put it directly in range. A Tyrannosaurus facing an adult Ankylosaurus may have weighed the odds carefully. Possibly walked away. These confrontations were not exceptions. They were the texture of daily life in the Hell Creek Formation, a world shaped by 65 million years of evolutionary arms races between hunters and the hunted. Tyrannosaurus was formidable beyond reasonable question. But formidable animals die from injuries. They die from infections. They die when a single encounter goes wrong, and there is no safety net. The greatest threats to Tyrannosaurus rex were never mythical rivals from other continents and other eras. They were the massive, armored, dangerous animals it depended on for survival, animals that had been evolving defenses against exactly this predator for millions of years. A single mistake against an adult Triceratops or Ankylosaurus, one horn that connected, one tail club that landed, could have ended the reign of the most powerful predator in the history of life on land. In the late Cretaceous, even kings had reason to be careful.